Before the story begins, I just want to say something from the heart. Every story I create takes a lot of time, effort, and love. If my stories have ever made you feel something, your support would mean more to me than you know. You can support my work by joining me on Patreon, where I share exclusive stories made especially for my supporters. The crystal chandelier above the dining table cast long shadows across the polished mahogany. I loosened my tie and reached for the wine glass, exhaustion settling into my bones like sediment. It had been one of those nights, the kind where you make decisions that keep other men awake, but let men like me sleep soundly. My three most trusted men sat around the table. Marco to my left, Dante across from me, and Vincent near the door. We just finished discussing the Philadelphia situation. The food was getting cold, but none of us had much appetite after the conversation we'd had. The shipment arrives Thursday, Marco said, cutting into his steak. Everything's arranged. I nodded, lifting my fork. That's when I heard it. A tiny sound, almost like a whimper. My hand froze halfway to my mouth. The room went completely silent. Marco's knife stopped moving. Dante's water glass hovered in midair. Vincent's hand drifted toward his jacket. We all knew that sound didn't belong here. I set down my fork slowly, the clink against the plate unnaturally loud. My eyes scanned the room, the curtains, the doorways, the shadows. Then I heard it again, closer, directly beneath me. I pushed my chair back and looked under the table. A pair of wide, terrified eyes stared back at me. The child couldn't have been more than 3 years old. She was pressed against the table's center support, clutching a small stuffed rabbit to her chest. Her bottom lip trembled. One tiny hand gripped the toy so tightly her knuckles had gone white. For a moment, nobody moved. "It's all right," I said quietly, keeping my voice level. The child flinched anyway. I recognized her immediately, the new maid's daughter. Alina had started working here about 6 months ago. Young woman, maybe 25, always kept her head down and did her work without fuss. I'd approved her hiring but rarely spoke to her directly. I definitely didn't know she'd been bringing her child to work. "Where's Alina?" I asked, glancing at Vincent. "The staff quarters, probably," he replied, already reaching for his phone. "Get her now." I turned back to the child. She'd shrunk further against the wooden support, trying to make herself invisible. The stuffed rabbit's ear was torn, patched with mismatched thread. Her dress was clean but worn, carefully mended at the hem. "What's your name?" I asked, softening my voice as much as I could. She didn't answer, just stared at me with those enormous eyes. I heard rapid footsteps in the hallway. Alina burst through the door, her face drained of color. "Mr. Castellano, I'm so sorry. She was supposed to be sleeping. I didn't know she'd." "It's fine," I said, holding up a hand. "Just get her out from under there." Alina dropped to her knees beside my chair. "Sophia, baby, come out, please." The child, Sophia, shook her head violently. "Sophia, please," Alina's voice cracked. "You're not in trouble, nobody's angry, just come to mama." The little girl pressed herself even tighter against the table leg. I'd seen grown men break under interrogation, watched lone sharks beg for mercy, stared down rival family heads without blinking. But something about this terrified child made my chest tighten in an unfamiliar way. "Let me try," I said. I got down on one knee, which made Marco shift uncomfortably. His boss kneeling on the floor wasn't exactly protocol. I ignored him. "Sophia," I said gently, "that's a pretty name. Is that your rabbit?" She hesitated, then gave the smallest nod. "What's the rabbit's name?" Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "Mr. Ears." "Mr. Ears looks very brave, but I bet he'd be more comfortable on a real chair than under this table. What do you think?" Sophia's grip on the toy loosened slightly. She was considering it. That's when I saw her neck. She turned her head just enough, and the light from the chandelier caught it perfectly. There, on the left side of her neck, just below her ear, was a mark. Not a bruise, not dirt. A birthmark, shaped like a crescent moon with three small dots trailing from its tip, like stars falling from the sky. My blood went cold. I hadn't seen that mark in 17 years, not since the day I buried my sister. My hand trembled as I reached out, then stopped. Sophia noticed my expression change and shrank back, frightened by whatever she saw in my face. "Where?" My voice came out hoarse. I cleared my throat and tried again. "Where did you get that mark?" Alina's face went absolutely white. "Mr. Castellano, I asked the child." My tone had shifted. Marco and Dante both sat up straighter. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "I was born with it," she whispered. "Nana says it means I'm special. She has one too." The room tilted. "Nana, grandmother." My sister had that exact mark. Our mother had it, our grandmother. It had been in our family for generations, appearing only in the women and only rarely. I'd thought it died with Lucia. Who is your Nana? I asked, my voice deadly quiet. What's her name? Sophia's bottom lip quivered. Alina made a small, desperate sound. Answer me, I said. The little girl's whisper was barely audible. Nana Lucy. The chair crashed backward as I stood. Sophia screamed and scrambled deeper under the table. Alina threw herself in front of me, hands raised. Please, she begged. Please, Mr. Castellano, let me explain. Everyone out, I said. My voice didn't rise, but Vincent and Dante were on their feet immediately. Marco stays, Alina stays, everyone else out now. The room cleared in seconds. I could hear Sophia crying softly under the table, muffled against her mother's shoulder as Alina crawled under to hold her. I pressed my palms flat against the table, trying to steady myself. The wood was cool and solid under my fingers. Real, unlike everything I thought I knew about my life. Marco, I said quietly, tell me I didn't just hear what I think I heard. Boss. Tell me that child did not just say Lucy. Tell me there's another explanation for that, Mark. Marco's silence was answer enough. I turned to face him. He met my eyes, steady as always, but there was something else there, something that looked almost like guilt. How long have you known? I asked. 3 years. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. 3 years, you've known for 3 years that my sister is alive and you said nothing. It wasn't my secret to tell. Like hell it wasn't. I slammed my hand on the table. Under it, Sophia whimpered. I forced myself to take a breath to lower my voice. She was my sister, Marco, my blood. I mourned her. I visited her grave every year for 17 years, and you knew. She didn't want to be found, Marco said carefully. She made that choice for a reason. What reason could possibly? I stopped, looked at Alina, still huddled under the table with Sophia, at the child with my family's mark on her neck. That's why you hired her, the maid. You knew who she was. Alina is Lucia's daughter, Marco confirmed, which makes Sophia my great-niece. The words felt strange in my mouth. Family, I had family I didn't know existed. I pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. My hands were shaking. I clasped them together to hide it. Alina, I said, come out, bring the child. She's frightened. I'm not going to hurt her. I'm not going to hurt either of you. I closed my eyes, please. There was a long pause, then I heard movement. Alina emerged first, then reached back to help Sophia. The little girl clung to her mother's neck, face buried in her shoulder, but she came out. Alina stood there, holding her daughter, looking at me with the same dark eyes my sister used to have. How had I not seen it before? The resemblance was there, in the curve of her jaw, the way she held herself, even her guarded expression. Sit, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. Alina sat slowly, settling Sophia in her lap. The child peeked at me from behind her mother's arm. Talk, I said, and don't leave anything out. Alina's voice was barely steady. My mother, Lucia, she left the family when I was a baby. She never told me much about why, just that it wasn't safe. We moved around a lot when I was growing up. Different cities, different names. She was always looking over her shoulder. From what? She never said, but I knew she was running from something or someone. Alina's arms tightened around Sophia. She died 2 years ago, cancer. At the end, she told me the truth about who she really was, about you. And you came here, why? Because she asked me to. Alina's eyes met mine, and I saw my sister's stubbornness there. She made me promise that if anything happened to her, I'd find you, that I'd make sure you knew she'd lived a good life, that she'd been happy. Then why not just tell me? Why take a job as a maid and hide in plain sight? Because I was afraid. Alina's voice cracked. I didn't know what kind of man you were. I didn't know if you'd blame me for her leaving, if you'd be angry that she'd kept me from you. I needed to see for myself before I said anything. So you brought your daughter into my house, into this life. I had nowhere else to go. She was crying now quietly. Sophia's father left when she was born. My mother was gone. I had no money, no family, no one. You were all I had, even if you didn't know I existed. I looked at Sophia, still watching me with those wary eyes. She'd stopped crying, but her face was streaked with tears. The birthmark stood out clearly on her neck, my family's mark, my sister's legacy. The mark, I said. Lucia had one exactly the same. Yes, on the same spot. She used to tell Sophia they were matching, that it meant they were connected even after she was gone. Something twisted in my chest. My sister had been alive all these years, had a daughter, a granddaughter, had died without me knowing. Why? The question came out rougher than I intended. Why did she leave? What was she so afraid of? Alina hesitated. She never told me everything, but she mentioned a name once near the end, someone she said you trusted, someone who made her feel like she had no choice but to disappear. Who? She called him the accountant. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Giovanni, Marco said quietly beside me. She means Giovanni. Giovanni Russo, my accountant, the man who'd handled the family's finances for 30 years, the man I'd trusted with every secret, every account, every number. The man who'd been with me at Lucia's funeral, who'd stood beside me at her grave, who'd watched me grieve. The man who'd known she was alive the whole time. Where is he? I asked Marco. At the downtown office, probably. It's Tuesday, he's always there late on Tuesdays doing the books. I stood, call Dante, tell him to pick up Giovanni, quietly, bring him to the warehouse. Boss, maybe we should. Now, Marco. He pulled out his phone. I looked back at Alina and Sophia. The child was still afraid, but there was something else in her expression now, curiosity, maybe, or hope. Go back to your quarters, I told Alina. Don't leave the property, don't call anyone. Tomorrow, when this is settled, we're going to have a longer conversation. About your mother, about what happened, about what comes next. Yes, Mr. Castellano. And Alina, I waited until she looked at me. Stop calling me Mr. Castellano, we're family, even if I'm just learning that now. Her eyes widened, I don't know what to. Uncle, I said, the word felt strange but right. When we're alone, call me Uncle Marco or just Marco if that's easier, we'll figure it out. A tear ran down her cheek. She nodded, unable to speak. As she stood to leave, Sophia twisted in her arms to look at me. Are you really my great uncle? She asked in that small, clear voice children have. Yes, I said, I am. Nana Lucy said you were brave. She said you protected people. My throat tightened. Your Nana was braver than I ever was. She said you'd keep us safe if we ever needed help. She said family protects family. She was right, I said quietly. And I will, I promise you, Sophia, nobody's going to hurt you or your mother, not while I'm alive. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded solemnly as if we'd made some kind of pact. After they left, Marco and I stood in silence. Giovanni's been with us for 30 years, he said finally. I know. You sure you want to do this tonight? Maybe we should think it through. He watched me mourn my sister while knowing she was alive. He had 17 years to tell me the truth. I looked at Marco. Did you know it was him, that he was the reason she left? I suspected. When Lucia reached out to me 3 years ago, she wouldn't say much. Just that someone close to you had made her feel like she had no choice. That she'd been protecting you by staying away. Protecting me from what? That, Marco said grimly, is what we're going to find out. The warehouse was exactly as I'd left it. Concrete floors, metal beams, the faint smell of oil and rust. We used it for storage mostly. Legitimate goods during the day. At night, it served other purposes. Giovanni sat in a metal chair in the center of the space. His hands weren't tied, we hadn't needed to. He'd come willingly when Dante mentioned my name, probably thinking this was routine business. His expression when I walked in told me he knew it wasn't. Marco, he said, his voice carefully neutral. He was in his 60s, silver-haired, always impeccably dressed. Tonight he wore a navy suit, the tie slightly loosened. What's this about? I didn't answer immediately, just walked in a slow circle around him, hands in my pockets. Dante and Vincent stood by the door. Marco leaned against a support beam, watching. How long have you worked for me, Giovanni? I asked finally. 32 years, he said, since your father was still running things. 32 years, and in all that time have I ever given you reason to distrust me? His eyes flickered, no. Have I been unfair, unreasonable? No. Then help me understand something. I stopped in front of him. Why would my sister fake her death and disappear 17 years ago? What could possibly frighten her that badly? The color drained from his face. You knew, I said quietly. Of course you knew, you've always known. Marco, I can explain. It's not Marco you need to explain to. I pulled up a chair and sat across from him. Start talking, and Giovanni, this is the only chance you get to tell me the truth. He was quiet for a long moment. I watched his mind work, calculating odds, weighing options. He'd been an accountant his whole life, everything was numbers and risk assessment to him. I was trying to protect you, he said finally. From what? From her, from the choice she was going to make you make. I felt Marco shift behind me, but I kept my eyes on Giovanni. What choice? Giovanni's hands trembled. You have to understand, things were different back then. Your father had just died, you were young, only 28. There were 3 other families circling, waiting to see if you were strong enough to hold the territory. Any sign of weakness. Get to the point. Lucia fell in love, he said, with a cop. The words hit like a gut punch. Detective James Morrison, Giovanni continued. Organized crime division. They met at a cafe, she didn't know what he did, he didn't know who she was. By the time they figured it out, they were already in deep. She came to you, I said. She came to me because she knew I'd handled situations like this before for your father. I told her the truth, there was no scenario where this ended well. Either Morrison's department found out and used her to get to you, or someone in our organization found out and killed him, or both. So you told her to run. I told her she had three options: end the relationship and never see him again, watch him die, or disappear and let everyone think she was dead. His voice dropped. She was pregnant, Marco, 2 months. She couldn't risk her child growing up in the crossfire. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against concrete. You let me believe my sister was dead for 17 years because she fell in love, because she wanted a normal life. You were under siege. Giovanni stood too, desperation creeping into his voice. The Marinos were pushing into South Street. The Russians were making noise about the ports. You were fighting to hold everything together. If word got out that your sister was in love with a cop, that she might be feeding him information. She would never. I know that, you know that, but would the Marinos have believed it? Would the Russians? He grabbed my arm. I looked down at his hand until he released me. They would have used it against you, spread rumors, made you look weak. Your own men might have started to doubt you. I couldn't let that happen. So you faked her death, how? Giovanni's shoulders sagged. Car accident, remote road. I paid the coroner to identify another body, a Jane Doe from St. Mary's Hospital, similar age and build. Your sister was already gone by then. She and Morrison moved to Seattle, got married, had the baby. They used new names, new identities. I set up a fund for them, small payments, untraceable, enough to live on. You've been sending her money for 17 years. Until she got sick. She refused treatment at first, said she didn't want to touch anything connected to this life. Morrison had died a few years earlier, heart attack. She was raising Alina alone. His voice cracked. By the time she agreed to let me help, it was too late, the cancer had spread. I turned away, trying to process it all. My sister had lived an entire life I knew nothing about. Fell in love, got married, raised a daughter, and died among strangers in a city far from home because she thought staying away was the only way to protect me. Did she ever ask about me? The question came out quieter than I intended. Every time we spoke, Giovanni said, she followed your life as much as she could. Newspaper articles, business reports. She was proud of you, Marco, proud of the man you became. But she was terrified that if she came back, if anyone knew she was alive, it would destroy everything you'd built. That wasn't her choice to make, it wasn't yours either. I know, and I've carried it for 17 years, but I'd do it again. He met my eyes, because she was right. If the wrong people had found out back then, it would have been a war. People would have died, maybe you, definitely her. I made a call and I stand by it. Marco stepped forward. What about Alina? When did you know about her? I knew she existed. Lucia told me when she was born, but I didn't know Alina knew about us until 3 years ago when Lucia got sick. She asked me to watch out for Alina and the child if anything happened. I arranged the job here. Figured Alina could decide for herself if and when she wanted to tell Marco the truth. You hired her, I said, and put her to work as a maid in my house. My niece, my blood. You had her scrubbing floors and changing sheets and you said nothing. She wanted it that way. She asked for the job to be legitimate, to earn her place. She didn't want special treatment until she was sure. Sure of what? That you deserved to know the truth. The rage I'd been holding back flared hot and sharp. She was testing me, my own niece was testing me. Can you blame her? Marco spoke from behind me. Think about it, boss. She grew up hearing stories about the Mafia, about violence and crime and dangerous men. Her mother ran from this life, her father died young, she had a baby to protect. Would you have trusted you? The truth of it stung. I'd spent so long building my reputation, making sure people feared me, that I'd never stopped to think what it looked like from the outside. To someone like Alina, I wasn't family. I was a criminal, a threat. The mark, I said, turning back to Giovanni. Sophia's birthmark, Lucia had the same one. Yes, it's how Alina knew for sure she'd found the right person. She'd been working here for months, trying to decide what to do. Then one day she saw a photo in your office, the old family portrait with Lucia. She recognized the mark. What photo? I didn't remember any portrait. In the drawer of your desk, Giovanni said. The locked one, I've seen you take it out sometimes, late at night when you're working alone. He was right, I did keep it there. The only picture I had of Lucia, my mother and grandmother together, taken a few months before my sister died or before I thought she died. I'd looked at it so many times over the years that I'd memorized every detail, including the faint mark on Lucia's neck. Alina saw that photo, I said slowly. She was cleaning your office, you'd left the drawer open. She saw the mark and knew Lucia was telling the truth, that you really were her uncle. Giovanni's voice softened. That's when she decided to stay, to let Sophia meet you naturally when the time was right. She wanted you to love the child before you knew who she was. She wanted to see if I was capable of love. Giovanni didn't deny it. I looked at him, this man who'd been with my family for decades, who'd handled our darkest secrets, who'd made an impossible choice and lived with it. Get out, I said. He blinked. Marco, you did what you thought was right. Maybe you were even correct. Maybe it would have been a bloodbath if the truth came out back then, but you let me grieve for 17 years. You watched me suffer and you said nothing. I stepped closer. I'm not going to kill you, Giovanni, but I'm done. Your services are no longer required. Dante will escort you home. You'll pack one bag. By morning, you'll be on a plane to wherever you want to go. Mexico, Europe, I don't care. The fund you set up for Lucia. Consider it your severance. After tonight, if I ever see you again, we're going to have a very different conversation. You're letting me go, he sounded stunned. My sister trusted you to protect her. You did that. It's the only reason you're walking out of here. I turned away. Leave now before I change my mind. Dante took his arm and led him toward the door. Giovanni looked back once, but I didn't meet his eyes. When they were gone, Marco and I stood in the empty warehouse. You okay? He asked. No, I sat down heavily on the chair Giovanni had vacated. My sister spent 17 years thinking she couldn't come home, that I'd rather believe she was dead than know she'd fallen in love with the wrong person. She was protecting you. I didn't need protection, I needed family. I looked up at him. You said she contacted you 3 years ago. What did she say? Marco hesitated. She asked about you, if you were happy, if you'd found someone. She wanted to know if you were alone. What did you tell her? The truth, that you'd built an empire, that men feared and respected you, that you were successful by every measure that mattered in this life. He paused. And that you had nobody, no wife, no children, just the business. She knew I was alone and she still didn't come back. She was dying, Marco. By the time she reached out, she had maybe 6 months left. She didn't want you to watch her die. She wanted you to remember her the way she was. Instead, I remembered her dead. The bitterness in my voice surprised me. Marco pulled up another chair. Alina's here now, Sophia too. Lucia might be gone, but her family isn't. You have a chance to do right by them, to give them what you couldn't give Lucia. What's that? A choice, he said simply. Let them decide what kind of life they want, who they want to be to you. Don't make decisions for them the way Giovanni made decisions for Lucia. I thought about Sophia's face when I'd promised to protect her, about Alina's tears when I'd told her to call me uncle, about the family I'd thought I lost, returned to me in the shape of a terrified child hiding under a table. Tomorrow, I said, standing, tomorrow I talk to Alina properly. I find out what they need, what they want. And tonight, I looked around the empty warehouse. 17 years of grief, 17 years of visiting a grave that wasn't really a grave, all of it based on a lie told with good intentions. Tonight, I said, I'm going to my office, and I'm going to look at that photo of my sister, really look at it, because somewhere in Seattle, she lived and laughed and raised a daughter and told her granddaughter about the uncle she'd never met. She loved you, Marco said quietly. That's why she stayed away, that's why it hurt her so much. I know, I walked toward the door. That's what makes it so hard to forgive. If you're still enjoying the story, please know that every bit of support helps me continue doing what I love. I'm trying my best to bring you better stories, stronger characters, and more emotional moments. If you'd like to support my journey, join me on Patreon and watch the exclusive content I've created for you. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my office with that photograph. It was old, the colors slightly faded. My sister stood between my mother and grandmother, all three of them wearing summer dresses, squinting slightly in the bright sun. Lucia was 16 in this picture, young and alive and unmarked by the choices she'd eventually have to make. The birthmark was barely visible in the photo, just a shadow on her neck, but I could see it if I looked closely enough. 3 generations of women, all gone now. Except they weren't really. The mark lived on in Sophia, my sister's blood lived on in Alina. I was still sitting there when the sun came up. Marco found me around 7, still in yesterday's clothes, the photo on the desk in front of me. You need coffee, he said, setting down a cup, and probably a shower. Giovanni's gone. Dante saw him off personally, headed to Buenos Aires, he won't be back. I nodded, sipping the coffee. It was bitter and strong, exactly how I needed it. Alina's waiting in the small sitting room, Marco continued. She's been up for hours too, Sophia's with her. Give me 20 minutes. I showered and changed, trying to wash away the exhaustion and anger and grief that had piled up over the last 12 hours. When I looked in the mirror, I saw my father's eyes looking back, hard and dark and carrying too many secrets. I didn't want Sophia to see me that way, didn't want her to be afraid. So I took a breath, forced my shoulders to relax, and tried to find whatever was left of the man my sister had told her granddaughter about, the one who protected people. The small sitting room was on the east side of the mansion, windows overlooking the garden. Morning light streamed through the glass. Alina sat on the sofa, Sophia curled up against her side, both of them watching the door. They both looked terrified. It's all right, I said, sitting in the chair across from them. You're not in trouble, neither of you. Alina's hand was in Sophia's hair, protective. Mr. Castellano. Marco, I reminded her gently, we talked about this. She swallowed hard. Marco, I need to apologize for hiding who I was, for not telling you the truth from the beginning. I held up a hand. I understand why you did it. Giovanni explained everything. Everything. The cop, the pregnancy, the choice your mother made. I looked at Sophia, who was watching me with those dark eyes. She was protecting you before you were even born. That takes a special kind of love. I never knew my father, Alina said quietly. He died when I was 12. Mom raised me alone after that. We moved around a lot. She worked hard, sometimes 2 or 3 jobs, but she made sure I never wanted for anything. She loved you. She did, and she loved you too, even though she never let me meet you. At the end, when she was dying, she'd talk about you sometimes, about when you were kids together, about how you used to protect her from the older boys in the neighborhood. Alina's eyes filled with tears. She said you were the best brother anyone could ask for, that leaving you was the hardest thing she ever did. The words cut deep. If she felt that way, why didn't she come back? After things settled down, after I'd secured the territory, she could have reached out. She was afraid too much time had passed, that you'd hate her for the lie, that bringing her back into your life would only cause pain. Alina wiped her eyes, and she was ashamed. Of what? Of running, of choosing love over family. She knew in your world family comes first. Always, she thought you'd never forgive her for picking a cop over you. He was her husband, the father of her child. She had every right to choose him. Try telling an 18-year-old girl that, Alina said with a sad smile. She made the choice, and then she spent the rest of her life wondering if it was the right one, wondering if you were okay, if you thought about her, if you mourned her. I mourned her every day, I said quietly. Sophia stirred, looking up at her mother. Why is Uncle Marco sad? Because he misses my mommy, Alina explained. She was his sister, like how you'd miss me if I went away. But you're not going away, Sophia said firmly. No, baby, I'm not going anywhere. Sophia looked at me. Did you love Nana Lucy? The question was so direct, so innocent. Very much. She was my little sister. It was my job to keep her safe. She said that's what uncles do. They keep people safe. That's right. Will you keep me and Mama safe? I leaned forward, making sure she could see my face, that she could understand I meant every word. Yes, Sophia, I promise you, nobody will hurt you or your mother, not while I'm here. She studied me seriously, then nodded. Okay, then we can stay. The simple trust in her voice nearly broke me. You can stay, I said, for as long as you want. This is your home now, your family's home. Alina's breath caught. Marco, you don't have to, we're not asking for. I know you're not asking, I'm offering. I looked at her. You're my niece, Sophia is my great niece. Lucia was my sister, that makes you family, and family doesn't live in the servants' quarters scrubbing floors. I don't want charity. Good, because I'm not offering charity, I'm offering family. I sat back. There's a wing of this house that hasn't been used in years. Lucia's old rooms, they're yours if you want them, or we can find you a place nearby, a house, an apartment, whatever makes you comfortable, you decide. I don't understand, why are you being so kind? Because my sister died thinking I'd rather believe she was dead than accept her choices. I can't fix that. I can't go back and tell her I would have understood, that I would have protected her and her family. My voice roughened. But I can do right by you and Sophia. I can make sure you have what you need, that you're safe, that you're family. Sophia slipped off the couch and walked over to me. She was small enough that even standing, we were almost eye level with me sitting. Uncle Marco, she said. Yes. Can I hug you? Something in my chest cracked wide open. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She wrapped her small arms around my neck. She smelled like baby shampoo and laundry detergent and something sweet I couldn't identify. Her toy rabbit was squashed between us. Nana said you'd keep us safe, she whispered in my ear. She was right. I held her carefully, this tiny person who carried my sister's mark and my family's blood. This child who trusted me based on the stories a dying woman had told her. I won't let you down, I promised. When she pulled back, she was smiling. Can I see the gardens? Mama said they're really pretty. Alina started to protest, but I stood, lifting Sophia into my arms. The gardens it is. Your great-great-grandmother planted most of those roses. Lucia used to play there when she was your age. As we walked through the house toward the back terrace, Sophia chattered about flowers and butterflies and Mr. Ears's opinions on gardens. Alina walked beside us, still looking uncertain but less afraid. In the morning light, with my sister's granddaughter in my arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in 17 years. Like maybe I had family again. Like maybe I wasn't alone. Marco caught up with us on the terrace. He took one look at my face and smiled. Boss, he said, yeah, Lucia would be proud. I looked down at Sophia, who was pointing excitedly at a butterfly. I hope so, God, I hope so. But even as I said it, something nagged at me. Giovanni had left too easily. A man doesn't run an organization's finances for 32 years and just walk away. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were gaps in his story. How had Lucia contacted Marco 3 years ago without Giovanni knowing? Why would Giovanni set up a fund for Lucia but then let Alina come work here, potentially exposing the secret? And most importantly, if Giovanni had been protecting me all these years, why did he look so relieved when I let him go? Like he'd been waiting for this. Like he'd been expecting it. Marco, I said quietly, still holding Sophia. Giovanni's travel arrangements, who made them? Dante handled it, why? Check them personally, I want to know exactly where he went. Marco's expression sharpened, you think? I think a man who kept my sister's secret for 17 years didn't just agree to be exiled on the spot. I think he had a backup plan. I handed Sophia to Alina. Take her to the gardens, I'll join you in a few minutes. Alina's fear returned, what's wrong? Nothing, just business. I smiled at Sophia. Save the butterflies for me, okay? When they were out of earshot, Marco pulled out his phone. Dante, check Giovanni's departure, confirm he's actually on that plane. We waited. Dante's voice came through the speaker, confused. Boss, there's a problem. Giovanni never got on the plane. Dante said he went through security, but the airline has no record of him boarding. They're showing his ticket as unused. Marco and I locked eyes. Find him, I said, now, and check his house, his office, every safe house we know about. But I already knew what we'd find. Nothing. Giovanni Rosso had disappeared. And men like him don't disappear unless they have somewhere to go, someone to run to. Someone who'd been waiting. Tell me everything about Giovanni, I said to Marco as we strode back into my office. Everything, his family, his connections, his finances. I want to know who he talks to, where he goes, what he does when he's not working. Marco was already on his laptop. Giovanni's been a ghost his whole life. No wife, no kids, no close family. Parents died 20 years ago, no siblings. He's got accounts in the Caymans, Switzerland, and Singapore, but they've all been dormant for years, just standard retirement setup. What about property? His house in the suburbs, a condo in Miami he uses maybe twice a year, that's it. No, there's something else, there has to be. I paced the office. A man doesn't keep a secret like Lucia for 17 years unless he has leverage, unless he's protecting something. My phone buzzed. Dante. We checked his house, he said without preamble. It's clean, too clean, looks like he packed in a hurry, but he took everything personal. Photos, documents, computer, if he had files, they're gone. What about the office downtown? Vincent's there now, but boss, the safe is open, empty. I cursed it under my breath. He knew I'd exile him before I ever walked into that warehouse. Or someone told him, Marco said. We looked at each other. Who knew we were picking him up, I asked. Just us, me, you, Dante, Vincent. And Alina. She was with Sophia the whole time after you talked to her. I had someone watching her quarters. She made no calls, sent no messages. Then how? I stopped. The dinner, when Sophia was under the table, when I first saw the mark, who else was there? Vincent and Dante left when you told them to. It was just me and you with Alina and the kid. Before that, before they left. Marco thought back. Vincent was by the door. Dante was at the table. They both heard you ask about the mark. They both heard Sophia mention Lucy. Vincent's been with me for 8 years, Dante for 12. You've known them both longer than I have. I'd trust them with my life, Marco said. But would you trust them with Lucia's secret? We stared at each other. Marco's phone rang. Vincent. Marco, we've got a problem at the downtown office, Vincent said. Giovanni didn't just empty the safe, he took files, a lot of files, including the ones on the South Street accounts and the new Philadelphia arrangement. Murda, Marco breathed, that's everything someone would need to know our operations inside and out, I finished. Who knew about those files? Just you, me, and Giovanni, Marco said. They're your personal records, the really sensitive stuff. Then why did Vincent just tell us they're missing? I took the phone from Marco. Vincent, how did you know to check for those specific files? There was a pause, just a fraction of a second too long. I was doing a complete inventory like you asked. I never asked for a complete inventory. I told Dante to check the safe. I looked at Marco. Where are you right now, Vincent? Exactly. At the downtown office, second floor. Why? Stay there, don't move, don't call anyone, we're coming to you. I hung up and grabbed my jacket. Call Dante, tell him to get to the downtown office now. Tell him Vincent is not to leave that building. You think Vincent's working with Giovanni? I think Vincent knew exactly what to look for and exactly where to find it, and I think that's not a coincidence. The drive downtown took 15 minutes. Marco drove while I made calls, securing the building, making sure Vincent had nowhere to run. But when we arrived, the second floor was empty. He's gone, Dante said, meeting us at the elevator. I got here 3 minutes ago, found his phone on the desk, still connected to your call, windows open. I looked out the window, fire escape, of course. How long has he been working with Giovanni? I asked Dante. Dante had the grace to look ashamed. I don't know for sure, but looking back, Vincent was always the one who handled Giovanni's security when he transported funds, always the one who drove him to meetings. I thought it was just because they got along. They got along because Vincent was feeding him information. But why? Marco asked. Vincent had everything, good position, good pay, your trust, why throw it away? Because Giovanni offered him something better, I said. The question is what? My phone rang, unknown number. I answered, yes. Marco, Giovanni's voice, I'm sorry it had to be this way. Where are you? Somewhere you won't find me, somewhere I've been planning to go for a very long time. You took my files, you compromised my operations. Insurance, he said calmly, in case you came after me, but if you leave me alone, the files stay private, you have my word. Your word means nothing. It meant something to Lucia. The use of my sister's name sent rage flooding through me. Don't you dare. I kept her safe for 17 years. I helped her build a life away from all this. I gave her peace. His voice softened. She deserved that, Marco. She deserved better than this world, better than us. She deserved the truth. She deserved to know her family. Her family would have gotten her killed. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I'm the one who got the call, Marco. Giovanni's voice turned hard. 17 years ago, the week before Lucia supposedly died, I got a call from a friend in the DA's office. They knew about Lucia and Morrison. They were going to use her to flip you. They were going to threaten the baby, threaten Morrison, threaten everything she loved unless she wore a wire and gave them evidence. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. You never told me. Because you would have tried to fight it. You would have gone to war with the DA's office and they would have destroyed you. And Lucia would have been in the middle of it. So I gave her a choice, run and live or stay and watch everything burn. You took away her choice to stay. You took away my choice to protect her. I saved both of you and I'd do it again. He paused. Alina and Sophia are safe now. They have you. That's all Lucia wanted. Let it be enough. Where's Vincent? With me, he's been helping me prepare for this day for 3 years, since Lucia contacted me and said she was dying. He knows I kept records, evidence, things that could hurt you if they came out. He's making sure those records stay buried. You're blackmailing me. I'm protecting you one last time like I've been doing your whole life. His voice gentled. Take care of them, Marco, Alina, and Sophia. Give them what Lucia never had, a choice about this life. Don't let Sophia grow up afraid. Don't let Alina hide who she is. Giovanni. Goodbye, Marco. Don't look for me. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in my hand, Marco and Dante watching me. What do we do? Dante asked. I thought about Giovanni's words, about Lucia's choice, about the DA preparing to use my sister against me. About Alina and Sophia waiting in the garden, finally safe. Nothing, I said finally, we do nothing. But he took the files. And if we chase him, he releases them. If we find him, he's probably set up a dead man's switch. Everything goes public. I pocketed my phone, he wins. So we just let him go. Marco looked incredulous. We protect what matters, Alina, Sophia, the family Lucia left behind. I turned toward the elevator. Giovanni's gone, Vincent's gone, let them disappear, we move forward. And if he uses those files? He won't, because despite everything, I think he meant what he said. He thinks he's protecting me, protecting Lucia's memory. I stepped into the elevator. Let him think that, let him live with it, we have more important things to focus on. On the drive back, Marco was quiet. You okay? He finally asked. The DA was going to use my sister to destroy me, I said, and I never knew. I spent 17 years mourning her, never knowing she died to protect me. She didn't die, she lived. She had a daughter, a granddaughter. She lived in exile, running and hiding because loving the wrong person made her a target. I looked out at the city passing by. Giovanni was right about one thing, she deserved better than this life. What about Alina and Sophia, what do they deserve? I thought about Sophia's question in the garden, can I hug you? About Alina's fear when she asked why I was being kind. About Lucia telling her granddaughter that family protects family. They deserve a choice, I said, a real one, not one made out of fear. When we arrived back at the mansion, I found them still in the garden. Sophia was chasing butterflies while Alina watched from a bench under the rose arbor. I sat down beside her. Is everything all right? She asked, reading my face. Giovanni's gone, for good this time. Because of us. Because of choices he made a long time ago. I watched Sophia laughing as a butterfly landed on her finger. He told me about the DA, about why your mother really left. Alina's hand found mine. She never blamed you, she wanted you to know that it wasn't your fault. It was the life I chose, the life our family chose, she paid the price for it. And she'd do it again because she loved you. Alina squeezed my hand. She told me once that you were the bravest person she knew, not because you weren't afraid, but because you chose to protect people even when it cost you everything. I couldn't protect her. You protected her by letting her go, by not forcing her to choose between you and her family. That took a different kind of bravery. Sophia ran up to us, breathless and glowing. Uncle Marco, did you see? The butterfly landed right on me. I smiled, the first real smile I'd felt in days. I saw, you must be very special. She climbed into my lap, completely unself-conscious. Mama says Nana was special too, because of our mark. She touched her neck. Do you have one? No, only the women in our family get the mark. That's because women are stronger, she said matter-of-factly. Nana told me that. Your Nana was very wise. Sophia looked up at me, suddenly serious. Are you sad she's gone? Yes, very sad. Me too, but Mama says she's watching us, making sure we're okay. I believe that. Do you think she's happy that we found you? I looked at Alina, who was crying silently, at Sophia, who was waiting for my answer with complete trust. Yes, I said, my voice rough with emotion. I think she's very happy. Sophia hugged me tight. Good, then we'll stay forever and ever. Forever and ever, I echoed. And for the first time in 17 years, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have a family again. 3 months later, Alina and Sophia moved into Lucia's old wing of the mansion. Alina had resisted at first, insisting she wanted her own place, her independence. But Sophia loved the gardens too much, and I'd learned that where Sophia led, Alina eventually followed. The rooms had needed work, years of disuse had left them faded and dusty. But Alina threw herself into the renovation with surprising enthusiasm. She picked soft colors and warm fabrics, turning the formal spaces into a real home. Sophia's room had windows overlooking the rose garden and walls painted the color of butterflies. I stayed out of the decorating decisions, but I made sure they had whatever they needed. Furniture, supplies, anything Alina wanted. Marco called it guilt money, he was probably right. But gradually, something changed. Alina stopped flinching when I entered a room. Sophia started running to me when I came home. Small things, but they mattered. One evening, I found Sophia in my office. She'd climbed into my chair and was working, scribbling on papers with a crayon. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She looked up, completely unafraid. Important business like you. I see, what kind of business? Butterfly business, very serious. I walked over and examined her papers, elaborate crayon drawings of butterflies with numbers next to them. This looks very official. It is, I'm counting them. Mama says that's what you do, count things. Sometimes. She studied me seriously. Uncle Marco, are you a bad man? The question hit harder than I expected. Why do you ask? Because Tommy at the park said his mama says you're a bad man, that people are scared of you. I sat down on the edge of the desk, choosing my words carefully. I make choices that sometimes frighten people. I have to be strong to protect the people I love. Like me and Mama. Yes, like you and Mama. She considered this. Nana said you were brave, not bad. I think she's right. Your Nana was biased, I was her brother. What's biased mean? It means she loved me, so she saw the best in me. Sophia slipped off the chair and hugged my leg. I love you too, so I'll see the best in you. I picked her up, this small person who'd changed everything. Thank you, Sophia. You're welcome, can we have ice cream? I laughed, ask your mother. Alina was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She'd taken over some of the household tasks, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She said it made the mansion feel more like home. Sophia wants ice cream, I said. Before dinner, absolutely not, but she was smiling. How was your day? Quiet, Marco's handling the Philadelphia situation. How was yours? Good, Sophia and I went to the park. She hesitated. One of the other mothers recognized me, asked if I was really related to you. What did you say? The truth that you're my uncle, that Sophia and I live here now. She met my eyes, was that okay? Of course, you don't need my permission to tell people who you are. I know, but this life, your reputation, I don't want to cause problems. Alina, listen to me. I moved closer. You and Sophia are family, I'm not hiding that. Anyone who has a problem with it can answer to me. She smiled. Sometimes you sound exactly like my mother described, all protective and intense. Is that good or bad? Good, definitely good. She turned back to the stove. Stay for dinner, I made Lucia's recipe for Sunday sauce. I found it in her old cookbook. My sister's cookbook, I'd forgotten that existed. I'd like that. Dinner became a regular thing. At first it was awkward, me at one end of the table, Alina and Sophia at the other, too much space between us. But Sophia hated it, so she started sitting next to me, chattering through the whole meal. Alina relaxed. We became comfortable with each other. Family. The word still felt strange, but less so every day. One night after Sophia was in bed, Alina found me on the terrace. It was late autumn now, the air crisp and cool. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. Do you regret it, letting Giovanni go? I'd been expecting this question for months. Sometimes he betrayed my trust, kept secrets that weren't his to keep. By rights, he should have answered for that. But he also protected Lucia when I couldn't. He gave her a chance at a normal life, and in the end, he brought you to me, even if he didn't mean to. Alina leaned against the railing beside me. My mother talked about him sometimes. She never said his name, but I think it was him. She said there was someone in your organization who helped her, who made sure we were okay. The monthly payments. Yes, we never had much, but we always had enough. I didn't realize until later that someone was helping us. She looked at me. Do you think he really loved her, or was it just obligation? I thought about Giovanni's voice on the phone, the way he'd said Lucia's name. I think he loved her the only way he knew how, from a distance, keeping her safe even if it meant lying to everyone else. That's sad. Most love stories in this life are. We stood in comfortable silence for a while. Marco, Alina said softly, thank you for giving us a home, for giving Sophia the family my mother wanted her to have. I should be thanking you for being brave enough to find me, for trusting me with Sophia. It wasn't bravery, it was desperation, she smiled. But I'm glad I did. Sophia needs this, needs you. What about you? What do you need? She looked surprised. Me. You gave up your independence to live here, to let me be part of Sophia's life. But what do you want, Alina? I don't know, she admitted. I've spent so long just surviving, just making sure Sophia was okay. I forgot to think about what I wanted. Figure it out, and when you do, tell me. Family supports family. She hugged me then, quick and tight. My mother was right about you. You are brave. After she left, I stayed on the terrace thinking about Lucia, about the choices she made, the life she built away from all this. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo I'd saved there, the one from my office. Lucia at 16, smiling at the camera, her whole life ahead of her. I met them, I said quietly as if she could hear me. Alina and Sophia, your family, they're safe, Lucia, I promise you they're safe. The wind picked up, rustling through the garden. And maybe it was my imagination, but I could have sworn I heard my sister's laugh carried on the breeze. 6 months after that, on a spring morning, I took Sophia to visit Lucia's grave. Alina came with us, but she hung back, letting Sophia and me approach the headstone together. Is this where Nana is? Sophia asked, looking at the marble marker. This is where we thought she was, I said. But she's not really here. She's everywhere you are, in your smile, in your laugh, in that mark on your neck. Sophia touched the birthmark. Mama says it makes me special. It does, it connects you to all the strong women in our family. Your Nana, her mother, and her mother before that. Were they all brave like Nana? All of them, the bravest people I've ever known. Sophia was quiet for a moment, then said, Can I tell her something? Of course. She knelt by the headstone and pressed her small hand against the marble. Hi Nana, it's me, Sophia. Uncle Marco says you're watching us. I hope that's true because I want you to know we're okay. We found Uncle Marco just like you said, and he's keeping us safe just like you promised. I miss you, but I'm not sad anymore because I have Mama and Uncle Marco and the butterflies in the garden. I love you, Nana, forever and ever. I had to turn away, the emotion too much. Alina appeared beside me, slipping her hand into mine. She would have loved this, seeing Sophia here with you, seeing us together. I wish I could have told her, that I understood, that I forgave her. I think she knew at the end she was at peace. Alina squeezed my hand. She told me something right before she died. She said, "Tell Marco he was always enough. Tell him I never left because of him. I left to protect him." The words broke something open in my chest. She said that. Her last words were about you, about making sure you knew she loved you. I pulled Alina close, this woman who looked so much like my sister, who'd been brave enough to walk into my life and trust me with her daughter. Sophia ran back to us. "Can we come back and visit Nana again?" "Whenever you want," I promised. As we walked back to the car, Sophia between us holding both our hands, I realized something. Giovanni had been right about one thing. Lucia didn't die 17 years ago. She lived in Alina's courage. She lived in Sophia's laughter. She lived in the family she'd brought together, even from beyond the grave. And that was enough. That would always be enough. 1 year later, the mansion's garden was in full bloom, hundreds of roses perfuming the air. Sophia ran through them in her best dress, directing everyone's placement with the authority of a 4-year-old who knew exactly how things should be. "Uncle Marco sits here," she announced, pointing to a chair in the front row, "and Mama sits next to him because they're family." The occasion was simple, a small gathering to celebrate Sophia's birthday, but Alina had insisted on something more. "I want to do it properly," she'd said. "I want Sophia to understand who she is, where she comes from." So we'd invited the extended family, cousins I hadn't seen in years, aunts and uncles who'd known Lucia. We told them the truth, that my sister had lived, that her daughter and granddaughter were here now. Some were shocked, some were angry I'd kept it secret, but when they met Sophia, when they saw the mark on her neck, they understood. The old priest who'd baptized Lucia came to bless Sophia, to officially welcome her into the family. As he spoke the prayers, I watched Alina's face. She was crying but smiling, finally belonging, finally home. Sophia stood solemnly through the ceremony until the very end. Then she turned and ran to me, throwing her arms around my neck. "Now it's official," she whispered. "Now everyone knows I'm yours." "You were always mine," I whispered back, "from the moment I saw that mark." The party lasted into the evening. Marco made a toast about family and second chances. Sophia blew out her candles and made a wish she wouldn't tell anyone. Alina laughed more than I'd ever heard her laugh before. And for the first time since I was 18 years old, sitting in this garden with my sister planning futures we'd never have, I felt complete. The mafia boss they feared in the streets. The uncle Sophia trusted with her whole heart. The brother who'd finally brought his sister's family home. All of it was me. All of it was real. As the sun set over the garden, I found the photo in my pocket, the one of Lucia I always carried now. I looked at her young face, frozen in that perfect moment. "Thank you," I whispered, "for trusting me with them, for bringing them home, for giving me a family again." Sophia appeared beside me. "Who are you talking to?" "Your Nana." "Does she answer?" "Sometimes, in small ways, like butterflies landing on your hand, or finding people when you need them most." Sophia considered this seriously, then nodded. "I think she sent us to you because you were lonely, and because she knew you'd keep us safe." "You think so?" "I know so. Nanas are magic like that." She took my hand, pulling me back toward the party, toward Alina and Marco and the family gathered in the garden. Toward home. And maybe Sophia was right. Maybe Lucia had sent them to me. Maybe this, all of it, was her final gift. The family I thought I'd lost returned to me in the shape of a little girl with a mark on her neck and a mother brave enough to find her way home. I'd spent 17 years mourning, but I'd spend the rest of my life being grateful. For second chances. For family. For the mafia boss who looked under a table one night and found everything he'd been missing. That was enough. That would always be enough. And if you made it this far, thank you. Seriously. Every person who watches, likes, comments, or supports my work gives me a reason to keep creating. If you want to help me continue making these stories, I'd be incredibly grateful if you joined my Patreon. Your support means more than just a membership. It helps me keep this dream alive.